Welcome to Living on Purpose Travel presentation of their specialty trip to Santiago, Spain, and walking the Camino de Santiago. Living on Purpose Travel specializes in designing trips for multi-generational travels and persons with health and mobility issues. This trip will be like 3 trips in one. The first half walking from the last 115 kilometers on the ancient pilgrimage, the Camino de Santiago, with van support and luggage transfer. The midsection we will be visiting some amazing cities with Celtic, Roman, and modern history. And we will spend our last of our 18-day trip in Finisterre, Spain for their spectacular Easter celebrations. I hope that this presentation sparks your interest in becoming part of history and walking the Camino de Santiago. The Camino de Santiago is a pilgrimage. A pilgrimage is a journey inward as well as outward. Pilgrims seek to strengthen and renew their faith through travel. The difference between a vacation or a hike and a pilgrimage is a vacation is a means to an end. Pilgrims travel for all different reasons. Walking for days or weeks gives you a time to sort out life, whether it be to soothe a grief, exhaust a grudge, make an important life decision, seek a new insight, or simply recharge your life spirit. You will meet people of all faiths or no faith at all along the Camino de Santiago. Everyone walks for their own reasons, spiritual or otherwise, and everyone is a pilgrim. The Camino de Santiago has several routes, but the most popular and thought to be the original is the Camino Francis, and this will be our route to the amazing Cathedral of Santiago. The Camino de Santiago, in English, simply means the way of St. James. It is called that for 2 reasons. First, after the crucifixion of Jesus, all the disciples fled to their native homelands. St. James made his way to what is currently France and walked the Camino Francis route to Santiago and then continued to evangelize into Finisterre. He was later buried in Santiago in 44 AD. In 778, Charles the Great Charlemagne crossed the Pyrenees to stop the advance of Muslim domination with the help of St. James' image. Between 1100 and 1212, St. James appeared at the critical moment to turn tides of battles. On that strength and those successes, St. James became the patron saint of Spain, a position that he still enjoys to this day. The first written record of pilgrimage to Santiago is 950 AD, and the first documented Compostela is dated 1140 AD, a tradition that continues today. And on your completion of the last 115 kilometers, you will receive your own Compostela of completion. This is our route to Santiago. It's relatively flat with a few challenging points over 6 days. Living on Purpose Travel will offer a van that's going to be available to carry your luggage every day. But you will have to carry any supplies for your days, rain gear, water, snacks, etc. You'll also have to stop for lunch or coffee at your expense throughout each day to get your first stamp in your passport. The second stamp will come from where we are lodging. There will be a guide in the back of the group that will have the ability to call for pickup for anyone that may need van assistance to finish their day. Many parts of the Camino de Santiago you will find solitude and walking through some very beautiful parts of Spain. Living on Purpose Travel offers trips during the slow season, so fewer people will be on the path. Following the yellow arrows, scallop shell markings, and permanent way markers will keep you on the path each day. Many churches line the small towns along the walk. Most have doors open for pilgrims to pray or take a rest. These churches have history dating back to the times of the Templar, and many have Templar stained glass windows and markings within their structure. If you're lucky, the priest will give you a blessing while you're visiting. Living on Purpose Travel will provide you with a list of supplies that you will need after an evaluation of the group's needs. Once we arrive in Santiago, we will obtain a pilgrim's passport and your shell. You will also be given a pilgrim's guide that gives you detailed maps and directions for each day. A guide will also be at the end of the group for anyone that does not want to walk alone or needs special assistance. A pilgrim's passport is your lifeline to getting your certificate of completion, your Compostela. You must have 2 stamps per day to get this honor. You will also be required to hang your shell from your pack each day. You literally walk looking for yellow arrows or yellow shells. They're painted everywhere, and you just have to keep an eye out not to miss a turn. We will be staying in a combination of hotels and albergues. An albergue is a basic bunkhouse with a shared bath, but it is possible in most locations to upgrade to a private room when you arrive and pay the difference to the albergue at the time. Costs are between $5 and $10 per person for a private room and a private bath, but this will come on a first come, first served basis. These are 2 examples of a pilgrim's passport as well as a shell. In order to stay in pilgrim's accommodations and to receive your Compostela, you need to provide proof that you walked the route to Santiago. You get stamps along the way at restaurants, bars, hotels, albergues, many churches, just about anywhere. You then present the passport in Santiago for your Compostela. Now, the scallop shell is a pilgrim's badge. It tells other pilgrims and local citizens you're on your way to Santiago. Pilgrims have been walking these same steps for 1,000 years, and you will be surprised with the support and help that locals will give you when they realize that you're a pilgrim. These are examples of shell signage. From Syria, every major town or kilometer counts down to Santiago. The Camino is very well marked and very easy to follow. This is an example of a private room with a shared bath. Most have private bath as well. 1 double bed with a towel and blankets. Some may have twin beds. Most of the private rooms will have heat or air conditioning that may not be available in the albergue. Many have washers and dryers as well. And the restaurant in this albergue is especially good. Some locations will have a restaurant or maybe even a bar. If it isn't available, meals will be included. If the location does not have a restaurant, we will cook community meals for dinner and for breakfast. Why walk the Camino? You can be walking with a spiritual intention, soothing a grief, trying to get direction on where your life is taking you, wanting to be part of something that has been walked for centuries, sense of accomplishment, community, being part of history, or to gain a Compostela. Whatever your reason, this trip will not disappoint. It will challenge you, strengthen you, push you, and educate you. They say that whatever the intention, you will not be the same after you complete it. There is an energy present on this path that is inspiring and comforting. Walking alone or walking with others, there is a peace present that is unexplainable and eerie at times. The things you will see have a history and a life of their own, a very powerful presence. From the vast openness to the small towns, they offer an amazing look into another culture. Historic churches and monuments that have been seen and visited for thousands of years. Peaceful and powerful, all at the same time. As peaceful as many parts, the Camino will challenge you. There are many long stretches of open walking and feelings of alone, and depending upon the weather, could be a challenge of cold and mud. You will be assured that you will experience many emotions during your walk, but all will lead to an inner peace and a greater connection to yourself and your Creator. It will be accomplishment when you make that last left turn to Santiago Cathedral Square. And if going on to Finisterre, the challenge is even greater, as the terrain is much more difficult and the day is much longer, but just as rewarding. And you will receive a second Compostela for your journey, again with 2 stamps per day. One of the historic traditions of the Camino is to carry a stone from home and leave it somewhere along the Camino. Some even paint their name, someone else's name, a word, or a message on that stone. The reasons for leaving stones vary from pilgrim to pilgrim. Some might carry the stone to symbolize the carrying of a personal grief. After leaving the stone behind, they hope that it helps to leave the grief behind them too. Others place the stone to mark the spot where the purpose of their journey is fulfilled after reaching an important decision, or after experiencing an aha moment. You can carry stones for those that are not able to make the journey, and you can place those stones anywhere along the Camino. Many people place them on top of waymarkers or fence posts, and you can say a prayer while leaving the stone and leaving your burdens behind you. Another significance to history along the Camino is the Night of the Templars. One of the primary functions of the Knights of the Templar were to protect pilgrims from thieves along the Camino. Many Templar structures still remain today. Only a few are after the 115-kilometer starting point, but a few churches along the route still have stained glass Templar swords. The Templars met their demise by acquiring too much power, according to Pope Gregory, on Friday, October 13th, 1307. Most were arrested and put to death, but their history and significance to this pilgrimage is ever present throughout the journey, as well as our own negative feelings towards Friday the 13th. The Compostela has been given since 1140 AD, and one on the left is dated 1400 and is present at the museum in Santiago. The Compostela is all in Latin and will have your Latin name written as well as the date of completion and from where you started your journey. In Santiago, after obtaining our Compostela, attending the Pilgrim's Mass, and resting, those that are going to continue the Camino de Finisterre and those exploring the ancient historic towns will part ways and meet back up in 5 days from now in Finisterre. For those walking to Finisterre, there is a separate slideshow highlighting this difficult but very rewarding journey to the 00 Camino de Santiago marker in Finisterre. Those making their way in the van will make our way to Ponferrada. Ponferrada is a magnificent medieval town with many historic Templar sites, none more impressive than the 12th century castle of the Templars. We will have lunch and walk together for this private tour of the castle. Both lunch and tour included, and the rest of the day will be left to explore this very interesting town. After breakfast in Ponferrada, we make our way to Burgos, stopping at some very interesting sites along the way. We will have lunch and take a private tour of one of the most beautiful churches in the world, the cathedral in Leon. The church has nearly 1,800 square meters of stained glass windows and took over 100 years to restore. After some free time to explore Leon, we make our way to Burgos. We will spend the whole day in Burgos and visit its 13th century cathedral that is a World Heritage Site. Humans have occupied this area for over 800,000 years, and the city was founded in 884. We will tour the cathedral as a group, and then we will have the rest of the day to explore the incredible architecture and maybe a train tour to the top of the hill with a magnificent views of the city and visit the castle ruins left by Napoleon and his army in 1808. Oviedo is our final stop before Finisterre. Oviedo was on the 2020 New York Times 52 must-visit list, and it has a very rich history. It's known for its local cheese, and it's famous for its cider. We're going to spend 3 nights in Finisterre. After meeting up with those in our group that walked, we're going to visit several pilgrim monuments and walk the final 1.5 kilometers together to the 00 waymarker for the Camino de Santiago. Finisterre is the westernmost land point in Europe, and it is considered the end of the world by most early Europeans, and it is still the label on most current maps. The highlights of this day is going to include the tradition of burning your pilgrimage clothing, or a piece of it, after reaching the shore. A local government council even provides a fire pit for this ritual that signifies ending of the old and beginning of something new. The Camino 00 waymarker is located in front of the lighthouse on the rocky edge overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. You will not find more beautiful sunsets or sunrises than here. Besides the end of the world and the end of the Camino de Santiago waymarker, it's also thought to be where the last sermon from St. James was given. Everyone will want to participate in the festivals of Holy Week, which includes a parade and a candlelight procession for midnight mass. Easter morning, we can participate in the Festival of the Holy Christ, a complete reenactment of the tombstone moved and Jesus is risen, complete with doves released, cannons, fireworks going off, and many food vendors for the celebration. After breakfast, we make our way back to Santiago and prepare to go home. We'll have all day to visit this beautiful city and the cathedral for the last time, and any last-minute shopping before heading back to the States.